shift in rights abuses in Russia since Putin was invited to Alaska and also to Beijing. We've seen significantly increase in attacks on Ukraine and also incursions into neighboring countries. Is it also translating into a more brazen approach at home? Thank you. More brazen approach when it comes to rights abuses in Russia.
Right. Page 20 of my report is outlining just a few examples of the individual cases of Ukrainians who were tortured by doctors, or they witnessed how torture happened to other detainees by doctors, by nurses, by medical personnel. You know, it is a new phenomenon in a sense that there was a hearsay that doctors have been involved, nurses and medical personnel was present, but there was no real facts and findings. And I put a lot of effort in this in order to find the individuals that would testify to me and my team about what happened to them. And then I put a lot of effort to find more testimonies already existing because a volume is needed as well. I wanted to see whether this is widespread and systematic. And in some prison colonies, which I'm giving as an example, Mordovia is one of them, in Republic of Mordovia in Russia, but others as well, because Ukrainian prisoners of war have been returning through the prisoner exchanges en masse, I mean, in bigger quantity. There are at least 50 testimonies, but there are many more, speaking about the same experiencing of torture and witnessing of a particular medical doctor, which the detainees called Dr. Evil. He's not a doctor. He's actually kind of not a qualified doctor, but not a nurse, but there is Feldscher, a paramedic, sorry, thank you. He is a paramedic, although he was the one in a doctor's role who was supposed to be the hired doctor in this prison colony. So despicable torture for punishment, refusal to provide medical care, but also examples of doctors who were checking while the detainees being tortured and advising the Russian army or security service, FSB, where to apply the electrodes during electric shocks treatment, or saying, oh, stop, because he's gonna die if you continue. Measuring the torture, being present in the room. Also, as a matter of routine, Russian doctors and nurses being silently present while the prison guards, it's called priyomka, when the detainees are entering the prison colony, they're subjected to ill treatment just as a sport or as showing them their place. From the moment they leave the prison buses to enter the prison colony, the prison staff is actually on two sides. They form something like a corridor and start beating heavily the detainees while entering the prison colony, after which they're starting a routine procedure of medical checks or you know, enlisting them in the prison colony. This is all accompanied by torture. And I've heard from a number of detainees that medical personnel was quietly waiting to then measure the height and the kilograms, the weight of these detainees, while before that, in the same room, they were watching how they've been severely beaten or tortured with electric shocks. So the complicity, on one hand, by being silent witnesses of the doctors and medical personnel, but not only that, their direct involvement in torturing detainees is what's absolutely new for me. And one of the most striking examples, I spoke to this guy. He's still in hospital facing, I don't know, third operation, I think. This is Andrei Pereviezev. This is a Ukrainian man from the east of Ukraine, born in Kharkov, in a small village outside Kharkov. And as you know, this is the bordering with Russia region. I asked him, do you speak Ukrainian? How would you like to speak? I don't speak Ukrainian, but during the interview he said, I don't speak Ukrainian that well. We all speak Russian because we're, from Kharkiv region. This man was called in to the Ukrainian army. He went to fight in the war to defend their country. He was, wounded, and this is the way he was taken prisoner of war. And then a Russian doctor who actually was sent visiting temporarily. He had his stint from Moscow. So a sophisticated doctor from a capital of Russia hospital started operating on him, not immediately. They waited for about, 32 hours, first interrogated him, tortured him with electric shocks. Another medical personnel was present while he was tortured. And then the doctor had to operate to keep his life. He did a good job. The surgery was perfect. But when the guy woke up, he saw that there is extra bandages on his stomach. And this Russian doctor has burned with the medical tool "Victory, Glory to Russia" on his stomach. And I have these pictures, and he showed it to us during the interview. And the letter Z, letter Z, which is now metaphorical in Russia for support of the military operation. Why did he have to do that? But he did the surgery well. He did his medical job well, and then he did that. On helpless man who was under anesthesia. This is one very striking for me example of such brutality, almost like schizophrenic. They do their medical job or they measure the height and the weight of the people, but it doesn't matter. They're tortured, they silently watch or they participate. Yes, I wanted to expose that, and it is in my report now, for the first time. The second question about whether Russia's repression inside the country has escalated since Alaska. I mean, from what I can see, there was from news that there was even worse drone and bombardment attacks to Ukraine since Alaska. What I can see, of course, as anybody else, is one day ago, the Russian planes in Lithuanian space or Russian drones heading for Warsaw. I mean, in terms of the repression inside the country against human rights defenders or journalists, it's already so high. It's already so high and so brutal that I don't think in several weeks it has dramatically increased. I mean, it's almost like business as usual. Every day we receive information about another journalist or writer or activist or just a common citizen who is commenting on Bucha or commenting on war crimes by Russia in Ukraine on social media, who are being prosecuted. But also now they have invented a new tool, and this is what my second thematic report in the General Assembly is about. It will be a zoom in. It also contained it in this report, but I'll be zooming in for the General Assembly on the issue of the abuse of national security legislation, treason, espionage, confidential cooperation, and public safety legislation like terrorism, counter-terrorism, counter-extremism legislation. All of these laws that exist in many countries of the world and have to actually go after real terrorists and extremists and treason, espionage, spies, they're instrumentalized to silence dissent and particularly anti-war expression in Russia. So actually it's a conveyor belt, you see. LGBT people sentenced for being extremists, indigenous organizations, national minority. The Supreme Court of Russia pronounced one after another the LGBT movement, whatever that is, as extremist, and the so-called separatist movement with its 172 affiliates, first as extremists, and then they put them in the list, 172 organizations on the list of terrorists, which carries all the prosecution of heavy sentences for terrorism up to 20, 25 years or life imprisonment. So, you know, I don't think in several weeks I could measure the pulse of after Alaska something dramatically changed. I think it dramatically changes every day. I mean, it's really, I'm shocked because I thought, well, now they demolished, they dismantled the civil society, torture as usual, impunity as usual. Where else could you go from here? Clearly, they haven't reached the rock bottom yet in the repression at home and the imaginative tools on the occupied territories and during the war against Ukraine, against civilians and, you know, POWs.
Thank you, Special Rapporteur. Is there another question in the room? Otherwise, we'll move to those online. Thank you.